A diplomatic row could be brewing between South Africa and Poland amid the impasse over President Cyril Ramaphosa's chartered flight that's still stuck in Warsaw. On that plane are about 120 people, mainly the president's security detail, as well as a small group of journalists. That includes Newzroom Afrika's Govan Whittles, who's there for us and now joins us via our video link for an update on this particular situation. And Govan, what an extraordinary past couple of hours it's been. I mean, this particular peacekeeping mission stifled even before it begins. Let's start perhaps with how you fared overnight. We received a report late yesterday about how you're still stuck there. It appears there hasn't been any movement.
Good morning, Ayanda. Yeah, not feeling great. It's about, I think it's day 3. At this point, just hoping to have a shower. But we're stuck in the plane, in this Airbus, and really the situation, it was untenable last night. Now it's just disappointing, and the fact that we don't know what will happen next just makes it worse. So this is the plane. We're stuck inside it. It's usually a comfortable flight in the Airbus. It took us about 10 hours, 11 hours to fly here from South Africa. But since then, we've waited. Last night at midnight, it was about 12 hours, so I suppose it's almost 20 hours that we've been on the plane, haven't disembarked. At intervals, they've opened up the door so we can get some fresh air. But behind me, you'll see some of the journalists. This is essentially the media delegation. We're over here at the back. That's Peter Dutoy from News 24. I mean, he's putting up the thumbs up, but that's really not how we're feeling at the moment.
Absolutely.
I'll show you some of the other stuff here. That's the security detail. We're not allowed to show their faces, so they've agreed to just stand their heads. Some of them from the Special Task Force, others from the Presidential Protection Services. Last night, we were able to get those visuals of the Polish police that had been stationed at the door. The Presidential Protection Services head, Major General Wally Roda, and some of the Polish police, or also representatives that he had sent ahead of time to Poland to prepare for this chartered plane's arrival. And really what appears to be the problem here, according to the people that are running the PPS that are on the plane with us. So the head of the president's security is on the plane with us. So are a number of other senior members of the PPS. Of the police as well. And they have ahead of that visit by our president. So essentially, they make sure that everything is okay for the president to arrive. They do some planning. Instead, we're still stuck in the plane, and we haven't left the spot. Take a look out the window. That's about as much of Poland as we'll be able to see. So those are cargo flights, cargo planes in the background there. Behind the SAA one, I think you can see the DHL one. That's because they've got us in the cargo terminal. And we haven't left there since we arrived.
Sure.
We were supposed to take off this morning, not clear where we would take off to. Bear in mind that most of the people here, well, at least the media, have only prepared to come to Poland and then move on to Russia. If we had to land in another country, we would, I suppose, need visas to do so. But of course, landing in Russia is a problem because one of the problems they've had is securing insurance for the aircraft. And because of the sanctions that have been placed in the Russian Federation, they haven't been able to do so. So we're in a tight spot at the moment, but we're feeling okay. Spirits are high, even though we're stuck with not a lot of clarity about what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and that's supposedly, really at the heart of what makes this incredibly disconcerting, Govan, the fact that there isn't a clear explanation around what's happening. And let me just apologize to our viewers for our intermittent connection to you. Understandably, you are on the tarmac on an airport terminal, which doesn't have the greatest of reception. But how have you fared in the last couple of hours? Part of our concerns, for instance, was around how, for instance, you're charging your phones so that you can continue giving us these updates.
Yeah, I mean, all credit to the South African Airways staff here who haven't left the plane. The stewards have actually been staying with us. There's about 10 of them, I think, and they're doing rotating shifts, and essentially they're providing us access to a charging port, which some of the journalists are sharing. They're still serving food and coffee. They woke up this morning to make sure everyone was okay. They're essentially one of the big reasons why we've been able to push through. Some of them are in the back now. You will see, I don't know if you can see some of them over there, opening the window shutters. They haven't stopped working since we arrived. In fact, and I think they're the ones that are working the most out of everyone that's on this delegation. They've been at it since the day before yesterday at 6 p.m. when they were preparing this plane for us to take off from Johannesburg. So we certainly owe them a huge debt of gratitude.
Yeah.
For taking care of us like this. But that's about as much as we've done from this point. We've had periodic updates from the head of the PTS about what's happening here. But beyond that, we really don't know what's going to happen. Last night they said that we were going to leave this morning to another location. We don't know where that is.
Yeah.
We also saw them loading or unloading the containers with all the luggage and the cargo, the weapons, and then loading them back after they were told that if they were taken or put onto Polish soil, they would be confiscated. It looks like that remains the case. It should be noted that this does appear to be very hostile treatment from the Poles here in Warsaw. And the PPS guys, as well as other security guys, say that they've never had this treatment before. They strip searched one of the representatives of the PPS, who had tried for 4 hours to make her way to the plane to receive this delegation. That was described as racist by the Major General, Wally Rueda, who's in charge of the PPS. He's also said that the Polish people appear to be sabotaging the security of the president. That's quite a serious allegation. That is likely to have serious consequences. What's also interesting is that the South African president met with his Polish counterpart, and the negotiations first.
What a pity. It looks like we've lost our connection to Govan Whittles there, who was still explaining to us some of those different dynamics. Govan, I understand we have you back on the line for us. We lost you just as you're explaining that the president did meet with his Polish counterpart, and so the version of events as they've unfolded really boggled the mind.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can still hear me. The connection is pretty weak out here. We're also trying to connect to you using an eSIM, so it's not very reliable at the moment. But yeah, we did think that when we saw visuals of how to disembark from this plane, catch another charter flight, move on to the city of Warsaw, which is on the border of Ukraine. From there, drop off the guys that were going into Ukraine.
All right. We've tried to stretch this as much as we can, and I think realistically speaking, we should probably step out now. But really, just the main sentiment there from Govan Whittles coming through loud and clear. They're still stuck on that plane in Warsaw, in Chopin International Airport. That's in Poland. There is still no clarity around when they'll leave. It's 18 hours and counting. Word now that they may have to go to a separate destination. They were meant to leave for Russia, but that may be a bit difficult. If they are to head to a separate destination, there's concerns around visas, essentially, to allow them to be there legitimately. As I mentioned, we're going to need a lot of clarity, at least in the hours ahead, to get to the bottom of how this was allowed to take place in a context where you understand those bilateral relations, at least at a presidential level, have already taken place themselves. Govan Whittles, thanks very much indeed. He's live to us there from Warsaw in Poland.